On the sparkling shores of Silver Lake, two friends spent every morning casting their lines into the deep blue water. Elias was older and always wore a wide-brimmed hat, while young Luca wore bright yellow boots and hummed a happy tune as he waited for a nibble. Suddenly, Luca's line went taut. He pulled and pulled until a medium-sized, shimmering fish splashed onto the dock. Luca beamed with pride. He took out a small circular frying pan from his backpack and measured the fish against it. It fit perfectly. Not long after, Elias felt a heavy tug. The water churned as he reeled in a magnificent giant trout that was as long as his arm. It was the kind of fish people told stories about. Elias smiled and carefully placed the huge fish into a large wooden crate. Then it happened for Luca. His rod bent nearly into a circle. He struggled and sweated until he landed a fish even bigger than the one Elias had caught. It was a golden giant, scales glowing like coins in the sun, but as Luca looked at it, his smile faded into a frown. To Elias's surprise, Luca gently unhooked the golden giant and lowered it back into the lake. With a flick of its tail, the massive fish disappeared into the depths. Luca sighed and sat back down, looking disappointed but certain of his choice. "Why did you do that, Luca?" Elias asked, tilting his hat. "That was the catch of a lifetime." Luca held up his small black frying pan. "It was a beautiful fish, Elias, but my pan is only 8 inches wide. The fish was much too big to fit inside. I can only keep what fits." Elias began to laugh, but it was a kind, warm laugh. He reached into his own bag and pulled out a pan that was exactly the same size as Luca's. "Look," Elias said, "my pan is small too. I don't have a giant stove or a giant kitchen, but I still kept my big fish." "How?" Luca asked. Elias pulled out a sharp silver tool and a clean cutting board. "You don't shrink your opportunities to fit your situation, Luca. You expand your situation to fit the opportunities. You don't need a bigger pan. You just need to learn how to cut the fish." Luca's eyes lit up. He realized he had been throwing away greatness because he was afraid of a little extra work. Later that afternoon, another giant fish bit his hook. This time, Luca didn't look at his pan. He thought about his courage, his skills, and his new plan. He reeled it in and kept it. That evening, the two friends sat by a campfire. They didn't have a giant pan, but they had several small, delicious fillets sizzling over the flames. Luca realized that by changing how he looked at the problem, he had turned a small pan into a feast for a king.